Anxiety has a really big impact on the quality of your life. And this much probably you know by now because you clicked on this video. But what you might not know, that anxiety is nothing more than a habit. Whether you like hearing this or not, this information can be the most life-changing thing that can help you heal your anxiety. Because if anxiety is nothing more than a habit, every habit can be changed, right? So to answer how anxiety is a habit and how you can make the most of this information so that you can actually heal, we first have to answer two questions. We have to explain what is a habit and what really is anxiety. I'm going to be talking from spiritual point of view, which is actually very practical when you hear it. So what is habit? A habit is something that we do consistently, something that becomes our nature because we are used to doing this. A habit could be a habit of thinking, repeating the same pattern of thoughts all the time. A habit could be a response to situations that play out in our life and always reacting in the same way. So a habit is something that without changing is going to play out throughout the life. But every habit starts with a single thought. Every habit starts with a single behavior. Every habit starts with a single belief. A habit is also the way we react behaviorally, but also emotionally to an event, to person, to a certain trigger, or a number of those things together. But it can be a habit of having an emotional response to situations. Now, what is anxiety? Anxiety is a pattern of recurring thoughts, recurring behaviors, responses, and emotions to different events. It's when you are spinning your mind in a loop and constantly rethinking what has happened and how you could have behaved differently to protect yourself. The same thing can happen about the future, how you can defend yourself maybe. So it's a habit of thinking these looping thoughts over and over and not being able to get off this carousel of spinning, overthinking, and therefore having an emotional response to those thoughts. If you have been watching my channel, you'd already know that emotions are nothing more than responses. They're responses to our perception of situation. They're responses to the thoughts we think. They're responses to whatever we think is happening. And I'm not saying things are being imagined, but we perceive situations, people's, ourselves, our relationships, our situation, our state through a lens that we have. And the lens is called belief. So a belief, again, is a pattern of thoughts that have been thought very frequently. So anxiety is nothing more than having these patterns of thoughts, reactions, behaviors, and emotions that follow these perceptions that give us these painful reactions. And whenever we have this emotional, sensory response of uncomfortable, painful feelings inside your body that arises in response to whatever is going on, whether that's your thoughts or something on the outside, then you would also be reacting to those sensations inside. Most of the time, people who experience anxiety are also becoming very sensitized to these uncomfortable, painful, negative emotions. And you can treat anxiety as a stream, consistent stream of a negative emotion happening over and over constantly because you're not able to get off a negative emotional state once it's happened because you've never learned how to get off it, but it's happening all the time, consistently through a period of time whenever you are experiencing anxiety. That's why it might be feeling like it's part of you. That's why it might be feeling like it's part of your nature. That's why you might be identifying with it and actually not being able to see how your life could actually be lived without anxiety, because it feels like it's basically your life. So I want to reassure you that just as a single negative emotion, when it happens, it can be changed. The extended in time negative emotion that is a result of constantly looping thoughts, constantly looping perceptions, and our consistent response, reaction, emotional reaction to those. This can also be changed and stopped. It can be stopped because it's a pattern, it's a habit. So now how your anxiety can be changed, how can this be healed now that we can accept that anxiety is a habit of thoughts, reactions, responses, and perceptions that occur extended in time? Well, just like with any habit, we have to bring things to awareness. We have to bring to awareness what are we responding and reacting emotionally to. To do this, we have to create a sort of space. Practicing any sort of mindfulness, meditation, or having some sort of practice that allows you to go inwards and observe what is happening, to get acquainted with the physical sensations first of all, and not being frightened by what is happening, meaning the emotional response that is happening, is the first guidance I have for you. So I teach in all my workshops, I teach in all my coaching that body scan meditation is the simplest thing you can do on maybe daily basis, ideally, to start getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, because sometimes we will have those tensions, we will have the fluttering feelings inside of us. We would experience all these butterflies, we would experience the churning, the palpitations, all these things that correspond with the fight flight response, which is anxiety. Now, let's go back to the spiritual cause of anxiety, because this is where the juice is. Every negative emotion is a signal from our core self that somewhere we have moved out of alignment and is trying to signal through the pain, through the discomfort, through the negative emotions, even those extended in time, to bring us closer to alignment, to merge with what is true for us. And as any negative emotions and anxiety included, because I will put this together because it's just an extended state of a negative emotion, they all result from the perceptions we have about ourselves, people, and the functioning of the world. So the perceptions, beliefs, and ideas, the stories that we have about ourselves, others, and the world, the cosmos, are usually of some sort of nature that we are being disconnected from the source. We are disconnected from God. We are disconnected from the life-giving energy, and we are left to our survival mechanisms, such as pleasing, such as defensiveness, such as proving ourselves. So we are getting into our head and constantly trying to strategize to protect ourselves, to survive through whatever perceived situation might be threatening to us. And to get off this roller coaster of doom and gloom and negativity and feeling left to those coping devices, we have to find a way to align ourselves to our truth. The beliefs and perception, as I explained in my other videos, are something we were taught in the course of life to teach us to survive as children. But as a habit, we were thinking this over and over again. And as we become adults, we no longer are dependent on people taking care of us. So we can drop off these limiting beliefs about us being dependent and reliant on someone or something on the outside. We can start being more reliant on our inner guidance. And people dealing with anxiety, which is why I know this, because I've experienced this, are so focused on the external world as we were used to doing from childhood. We are so desperate to find reassurance from the outside, to find people to understand our point of view, to make sure, to prove to people that we are worthy of acceptance, because we are so desperate and acting out of desperation through this idea that this is how it's going to help us survive, and this is the only way that will help us to feel safe. So in essence, anxiety is using this outdated software in really desperate need to find some sort of safety. But the problem with this is we are using old software that doesn't apply to our current life. We have to start using a different set of perceptions and a different set of mechanisms, different way of thinking, different way of responding, different sets of stories that we tell ourselves so that we can break free from this loop of constant negative thoughts, negative stories, and then having this negative emotional response that keep happening over and over and over. And this is why can't we get off this loop of feedback that only reassures us that we are feeling doomed, that we are feeling faulty, that we are feeling like everyone out there is just to get us. And we just have to defend ourselves, protect ourselves, persuade them. We have to please them. We have to overwork. We have to do all these things that exhaust our energy and get us nowhere. So as I hinted already, the crux in having anxiety is misalignment to our core self-belief systems. You can call them stories that we tell ourselves, because beliefs are often thought of like, this is permanent, I cannot just change a belief. But if you talk about stories that we keep repeating to ourselves, this is something you can easily change. So the narrative you are having about yourself, about maybe how you can get things that you need, or how people treat you, or how the cosmos, how the universe is organized, how you are feeling supported or unsupported, these things can be changed. Now, what are the beliefs of your core self? All of us were born aligned to our source, and through our conditioning we took on those false limiting beliefs to help us survive in the, well, imperfect world. Now the core self, the highest self, the source energy that brims through you are speaking the language of love. And basically all of us, when we align with those beliefs that I will in a minute explain to you, we stop feeling these negative emotions. When we adopt a different lens of seeing ourselves, others, and the world, we are able to get ourselves from the old narrative and see everything in a different way, which allows us have a different emotional response which breaks us free from anxiety. Now, what are these beliefs? The beliefs are that you are powerful, that you are abundant, that you are fully capable, that you are being loved because you are lovable, that you can have anything and everything that you want because you deserve all the best things in your life. The belief is also that health and peace are the basis of every human's experience, and everything that is different from what I just mentioned is simply a state of misalignment and not believing that these are true. You might be thinking, how is that going to help me when I'm feeling so frantic? I'm just going to give you a real good life example how you can take this into practice. A simple example that I used to experience a lot, maybe in a workplace you might be experiencing the same situation, is that you could be having a sort of experience at work. Maybe an event happened, or someone hurt your feelings, or maybe someone misinterpreted what you were doing. They didn't see your value. And now you are home and you are having these looping thoughts, defensive thoughts, what you should have said, what you can say in the future, how you can protect and defend yourself, how they were not able to see your value and how hurtful that is. And what happens, you usually think those thoughts, you have these emotions, you think those thoughts again, and you just go over and over and over until the utter state of exhaustion when you cannot go to sleep, you have a hard time of relaxing, you have a hard time of forgetting what happened, enjoying yourself, and getting through that moment and just doing something that is actually, fruitful for you. So how do you get off this? Well, you have to get down to the belief that had you have those perceptions of this situation. Okay, the boss maybe didn't appreciate your behavior, right? Or a colleague said something about you that wasn't true. So the narrative that is at the foundation of this response, these thoughts and emotions, is that everyone out there is against me. The world is against me. People are against me. No one gets me. No one can see how much value I'm bringing to the table. I'm so great, but no one can see this. Or maybe I'm not so great. That's another thing that you might be thinking. And then you might have a thought that is happening. Now that they don't see my value, maybe they will fire me. Maybe my position is threatened. Maybe I will not get the promotion that I was expecting. Maybe I will not get the money I wanted. And all these things over and over and over again. And how adopting the lens, the narrative, aligning closer to what is true to us can help you in this situation. First of all, you want to take a break. Go inwards. There's always this point when you need to go inwards to get away from the thoughts. Just get closer to your heart, get inside your body, and get comfortable with the uncomfortable feelings, but stop resisting what you're feeling, because this is another level that builds up anxiety. Now that you go inside your body, now that you've taken a few deep breaths, you can ask yourself now, what was I thinking, right? And you get down to the thoughts, you observe what kind of beliefs you had, and you see, like, okay, if I adopted a thought that I'm perfectly capable, how would that change the whole situation? Wow, all of a sudden, there are many options in the situation that seemed like a trap. Right? That seemed so oppressive that you were constantly thinking and feeling as if you're trapped, like you're doomed. Maybe you will not even survive this, because this is how anxiety feels, right? Adopting the idea that you are fully capable presents you with a number of options. One option is, well, if I'm fully capable, then I might just start looking for another job, right? If I really think I have something to offer and they're not seeing my value, then I can just as well find a place that I can find more appreciation from my colleagues, from my superiors, and have people appreciate the contribution that I'm bringing in a workplace. Wow, okay, right? This is a solution. It gets you out of the head. So you are having a more of breathing room. Now you can get off this roller coaster and start seeing, okay, maybe I can do that. Maybe it's an option that I actually start looking for another job. Another option, I'm fully capable. Why can't I start a business? Wow, I have so much skills that people are not able to see. I can really put them to work and live my passion because this is something I love doing. Maybe this is a time to start doing this on more serious level and maybe start making some sort of income that would allow me to quit this job and do more of what I love. Because I'm fully capable, because I deserve the best, because the world is abundant, because I deserve peace. Peace is there for me to live in. Stop stressing and stop fueling this maybe damaging relationship in the workplace that I have when people constantly diminish my efforts, right? And therefore I can start thinking and fueling this amazing avenue when you align to this different narrative that you keep telling to yourself. So with that point of reflection where you can find a little bit of breathing space, when you get off this roller coaster, when you stop thinking the same thoughts, you can start adopting a new lens, a new perception of the situation. You stop being so desperate on making this trapped situation work. You start seeing new opportunities. You can start seeing how you are actually amazing. You can see how actually you can find support from somewhere else. Maybe you start seeing, oh yeah, that person always told me that what I do and this hobby is so great. And then you start fueling and feeding this whole new creation in your mind that takes away from that anxious survival state. And yes, thoughts and narratives are something we are choosing over and over. We are choosing our behaviors, we are choosing our attitudes, even if they seem like they're invisible, even if they seem like we're not taking choices. When you slow down and really take apart what you're doing moment by moment, when you are living on autopilot and getting hijacked by all these thoughts and emotions, and you are getting swept away by this emotional state, when you take this all apart, there are tiny choices that you are making. The thought that you're choosing, the behavior, the attitude, the response, what you said, what you didn't say, how you reacted to a situation at work. Maybe you could have stood up for yourself. Maybe you could have said something. Maybe now you can take a different choice in how you're going to navigate. But for this, you need to organize the basis on how you are making your choices. Anxious people make choices out of the perception of surviving, whereas our highest potential lies in seeing and perceiving the world through the lens of thriving choices, loving choices, self-loving attitudes and behaviors that we take on whenever we align with this perspective. And for this reason, I also really synthesize this process so that you can download this free guide from the description below, and you can use this choice guide to help you navigate how to take these choices moment by moment, day by day, and become more empowered and get off that anxious loop of feedback. So aligning to yourself, whether that's a short-term negative emotion or a long-term anxiety, it works exactly the same. You just have to bring yourself to a point where you can actually observe your thoughts, when you can ask yourself, what am I thinking and why am I thinking? Why am I repeating this narrative that is so limiting, that is so damaging, that it makes me think that I'm barely surviving here, that my life is even threatened? Because let's be honest, this is how the anxious narratives look like. It may seem like it's the end of the world. If you can't prove yourself to this boss, you're going to be fired. You're going to stop paying bills. You're not going to have money to feed yourself, and you're just going to die, right? This is so catastrophical in the perception of the reality. We get really narrow-minded. We get this channel vision in seeing just black or white. I'm just going to make it work or it's death, right? So with adopting a lens of the higher self, of your core self, because it's just part of you, you can see multiple options in every painful situation. But most of all, you can get a breathing space that will allow you seeing how frantic and untrue the anxious perspective was. I hope that you're seeing by now how anxiety, being a habit, is actually a great thing. And for you to work through this subject, it is so important that you work on your negative beliefs, that you work on those narratives that keep limiting you in the way you are seeing yourself and your abilities and the world and others. So I will post a video here about beliefs, but I will also post a video that is very relevant on negative emotions and how you can collapse this physical state with the higher self perspective so that you can feel more empowered,